Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jon. Vale. Thanks for coming on this beautiful afternoon. I'm thrilled to have, this is Campbell Mr Shaw here. It's an amazing play. I think you're going to enjoy it. By Sandra Laub. If you need a bathroom, it's upstairs on the very end. And again, enjoy the show and thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. We're there at our stop. She was an artist from another time. Pardon me. This was her idea, not mine. Where the hell is she? Have you heard of the music hall duo Love and Work? They never rehearsed enough to perfect their balancing act. My life consisted of miles and years of trying. Worry, brain chattering, speechifying, snatching 3 lines to her, love and work. And here we are, waiting for the two to converge. Oh. I smashed up my beloved car once, shortly after Stella, Mrs. Campbell, had her smash up in a London taxi cab. It was her fault, too. Well, not her accident, mine. I was ecstatically distracted by the music of 1,000 letters I was writing to her in my mind, and smash. Car ruptured a vital organ. I was in the middle of nowhere. A comic tragedy for me. Who would rather write 3 plays than ask my way anywhere? At such times, I always miss my wife, Charlotte, who, when in the smallest difficulty, demands information and assistance from every bystander. Generally gets it, too. Oh, the things of this world bruise my soul. Women never do realize what timid, weak creatures men are. She's impossible. Well, shall we have a song while we wait? This lively piece of doggerel Stella's daughter, Stella Jr. made up. Actually, she made up the first verse. I made up 1,000,000 more on that troublesome car trip. Forgive the strong language. They were the only rhymes that fit. I'm mad. He's gone right off this chump. He cleans his boots with strawberry jam. He thinks the world of my silly old man who doesn't value his plays a damn. For they give her the bloomin' hump, dear girls. They give her the bloomin' hump.
Yes, he's mad. He's regularly deranged, but however he loves and however he longs.
My mammy and I wouldn't touch with the tongs.
Such a silly old man with such silly old songs.
No, we'd rather marry the Shaw, dear girls. We'd rather marry the Shaw. Mrs. Campbell.
Mr. Shaw, it's good to see you at play again.
And it's good to see you. Full stop.
No, full stop. Dash. I never could bear finality.
Fidelity, did you say?
No, I said finality.
Well, you wouldn't know proper punctuation if it put you in your arse.
A little deaf, I see, but still spry. Not bad for a man who's been dead for 3/4 of a century.
Oh, so I didn't live forever.
Well, we all know you're one of the immortals, Mr. Shaw, along with Shakespeare and Dante, but nope, you didn't. How else could all the letters have finally, upsets me just to think about it, finally been published?
Any remuneration from said publication to be used for the education of your grandchildren. Thanks to your daughter.
My daughter, sensitive soul that she was, would have burned them, bad punctuation and all, had I not expressly stated in my will that they be published as soon as you made yours available. Thank God it all worked out.
I am God. All playwrights play God.
Oh, here we go.
Stop. Stella, you've kept these nice people waiting in the sanctuary of elegance and culture.
They've braved it, and no masks. Good for you. The Queen should knight them all.
Look, Stella, this is America. You British brat.
Ah, I love America. I love American women. They're so bright. An American lady once told me the secret of married happiness lies in politeness. If so, I have found the manners of American men most kindly, of Frenchmen most courteous, of Englishmen most sincere, of Irishmen, God defend us. And how is your wife, Mr. Shaw?
Well,
Charlotte?
It's a dangerous thing being married right up to the hilt.
I never did have the pleasure of calling on your wife, though I did have a very vivid dream of her once. She shook hands with me warmly and smiled and said, I thought you were a bird of paradise, but you are only a silly goose.
If Charlotte overheard our telephone conversations, or, God forbid, read one of our scorchers.
Oh, you mean these?
I'll never get over the essential unreasonableness of jealousy. Why can't a man make one beloved woman happy without sacrificing another?
Well, that's easy for you to say. You were married for 100 years, while I...
Stella, let me tell this little story. I think you'll gain some perspective. Stop me if you've heard it. You were playing Eliza in...
Your immortal play?
Pygmalion, which I wrote for her.
I got buy a flower off a poor girl.
And the man playing Colonel Pickering was waiting in the wings. And the stagehand confides to him, there, Patrick Campbell, he were a lucky man. And the actor said, well, yeah, she's still a handsome woman. Oh, I don't mean that, says the stagehand. I mean, he got himself killed in the Boer War.
What are you insinuating, that I was difficult?
Depends on who you ask, Mrs. Pat. I just thought your first husband, God bless him, might appreciate the joke.
I love Pat. I felt quite lonely after he died. I felt quite lonely whilst he lived, actually. Well, we were apart so much.
Oh, and your second husband.
Oh, the less said about George, the better. When a man says he'd rather be in hell than in the same house with you, he justifies the situation to his friends. But for me, it was agonizing. I will never be able to look back on that as a joke. But if I make any excuse for my bad name, it is this. I am, in some small way, an imaginative artist. And there is my difficulty. Sometimes I cannot learn my words until I know what the others are bringing to or taking away from theirs. And besides, to be tolerant towards sluggish natures and unresponsive minds is difficult and needs a Christ-like patience.
Oh, who's playing at God now?
Oh, admit it, Joey. We're both impatient with unintelligent people. I was from the moment I was born, which is a tragedy, since I am myself 3 parts a fool.
100 years after the fact, we'll embark on an inquiry about our relationship. That's a modern word, a friendship, one of a kind, that spanned the Gilded Age to the modern one. You preeminent actress.
And manager, and mother.
And grandmother, and I, man of letters, critic, playwright, pamphleteer, committee member, general public irritant, and campaigner for the perfectibility of man.
Yes, I think they want to know the how of it.
What?
They want to know about our love affair. Did we act it? Or did we write it? Or did we live it?
Oh, never.
I am not ashamed. Men made love to me, I admit it. But I deny being a flirt.
We never.
We made a dream world for each other, as real as this one.
Oh, starting from 1895, you were it. And for the next 10 years.
20.
You played romantic, tempestuous women, rousing from the Victorian trance. It was up to me to finally jolt them away. The second Mrs. Belladonna, Macbeth,
Tanqueray. As antiquated, meaningless names.
Oh, but then Juliet, Ophelia, had a gobbler, Lady M.
Yes, and you were always my worst critic for years before we even met. You despised me in Macbeth.
Stop!
What? Oh, I used to be superstitious. You all know about the time-honored prohibition against actors in a theater speaking the name of Shakespeare's shortest play out loud.
Yeah, let's go outside, turn around 3 times.
You are such a scaredy cat.
I'm not. And I never despised you. I thought you could do better. For when you're at your best, you were better than anyone.
Even Eleonora?
Eleanor do so well.
Oh, Joey, you know every button in my body and just how to push them.
Oh.
Joey, my nickname for him, my clown, my Arlecchino.
Your pet alone.
Well, you know best. All right then, here are our 40 years together, and mostly apart. I wonder how many hours we actually spent in each other's company.
Well, they say now it's the quality, not the quantity, that counts.
Let's take it from that fateful meeting at my dearest friend Dee Dee's house. You were too scared to come to mine.
In the September of 1912, I went to read Pygmalion.
My fair lady.
To entice Mrs. Patrick Campbell, the biggest star on the London stage. I had a full armament of professional tricks up my sleeve. I went calmly in, hard as nails, and blast me all to pieces if it wasn't you instead who captured me with the oldest trick in the book. I fell violently and exquisitely in love with you in the first 30 seconds. I would not have believed I had that left in me. Has there never been anything so ridiculous, or so delightful in the history of the world?
33 Kensington Square, June 1912. My dear Mr. Shaw, I believe you have written a masterpiece. It's not a nice sound, though, is it? That Cockney accent. But thank you for thinking I can be your pretty slut. If you're really in earnest, the next step is to tell me what the business proposal is. When, where, and with whom.
Now, Eliza, who is to be your complement? You are happy playing with worms, and worms never give any trouble. But my plays must be acted, and acted hard. I must have a heroic Higgins. Name your man.
I cannot be forced into partnership. That would never do.
Stella talks sense. You're an established star, a veteran. You must have an established star to play opposite you.
A veteran? How dare you? I am not a veteran. One would think that my hair's a wig, my eyes are glass, and my legs wooden. Well, I've got my eyes, my hair's my own, and my legs are as good as the best. And I won't be a day over 39. Of course, I do have a daughter who's 28. But what of that? It happens in India all the time.
Stella, you can't say that sort of thing anymore.
Why not?
I must have my Liza and no other Liza, and we must have a proper Higgins for my Liza.
Well, then, you must listen to reason.
I won't listen to reason. All I ask is to have my own way in everything.
Oh, darling.
And Mrs. Campbell.
The American offer has fallen through. I long to get on with the whole thing and call rehearsal for September 1st.
Well, September 1st is agreeable if we find the right Higgins. I won't budge from this position. Our friends are beginning to talk about us. I wish I could fall in love without telling everybody. My beard is white. I'm almost 56. I have not yet grown up. I must go now and read this letter to Charlotte. My love affairs are her unfailing amusement. Stella, September 1st, yes?
September 1st, for sure, Mr. Shaw. Not yet. I forgot. The Smasher.
Oh,
Hotel Mirabeau, Aix-les-Bains, July 1912. I was driving to St. James Theatre. There was a boy on a bicycle, not a motorcycle. My taxi swerved to get out of the way. Then a blinding bang into another taxi. Somebody picked up that boy, took him to hospital. I hailed another cab and drove to the theater. My producer, George Alexander, came into my dressing room, looked at me funny, asked me if I was all right. I said, I'm fine, I'm going to play. He said, no, you're not. Look in the glass. I looked. My head had risen 6 inches, and the hemorrhage came down my face, under the skin. I had bruises over every inch of me as large as saucers. Belladonna must close. But save Eliza for me, darling, will you? Can you? And write to me at this ridiculously fashionable cure place and make me get well. A letter a day won't be enough. And perhaps, if you're very good and behave properly at rehearsal, I shall write you a love letter.
A love letter? When did you ever write anything else? Come, let me come and read you Androcles and the Lion. Oh, it's a brawling, shouting, roaring, bustling, brutal affair, only an hour and a quarter long. But it may worry you entirely. However, it is in 3 acts, so you can take it an act at a time. There's an excuse for coming 3 times. And then there's Miss Alliance, a masterpiece in 1 act, 3 hours long. The heroine is a beautiful Polish acrobat. You shall play her when you have learned to dance on the high wire. Oh, you are my girl, my beauty, my darling, barefooted, dusty petticoated, or my mother of angels, or a dozen lovely wild things that would greatly astonish the young lions of the St. James Stalls. G.B.S.
33 Kensington Square, August 1912. My children, when they were young, used to clamber up onto my bed and we'd make a party out of reading my letters, my fan mail. Now they're all grown up, I am still in bed, and they still want to read my letters, especially yours. But don't let that censor your poetry to me. Do come and read to me, or just talk. Gratefully, Stella.
Oh, beautiful, illustrious inspirer of my trampled spirit. When I get down to London, I will bellow Androcles into your coral ears until the house falls down. If you're idly curious if I'm still in love with Stella, the answer is yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, a million times yes. I cannot help it. I kiss your hands and magnify the life force for creating you.
Oh, darling, there's nothing to do but accept you and love you. But when you were quite a little boy, somebody ought to have said hush just once.
Glorious white marble lady. In my childhood, I wasn't spoiled and I wasn't held. I was taken and took myself for what I was. A disagreeable little beast. Nobody concerned himself or herself with what I was capable of becoming. Nor did I. I did not know that I was different from other people, except for the worse. Far from being conceited, I hadn't even common self-respect. No, in my childhood, I wasn't spoiled and I wasn't helped. Nobody concerned themselves with what I was capable of becoming. I have discovered all my powers from the outside. Or rather, I've discovered that everybody else hasn't got them. My shyness and cowardice were beyond all belief.
No more shams. A real love letter this time. Then I can breathe freely and finally begin to get well. I haven't said kiss me because life is too short for the kiss my heart longs for. Look into my eyes for 2 minutes without speaking, if you dare. Then how many hours would you be late for dinner?
Oh, if I looked into your eyes for 2 minutes without speaking, Stella, you devil, I might see heaven. There is no relation into which we could enter that would not be entirely natural and happy for me.
Ow! I have suffered a setback. For 4 months, from September to December 1912, I lay in my bedroom at Kensington Square, at death's door, some said, and listened for your footsteps bounding up the stair.
I hope you've lost your good looks, for whilst they last, any fool can adore you, and the adoration of fools is bad for the soul. I shall never quite get over falling in love. I haven't been quite the same man since. I don't understand it. That's what should terrify me. But it doesn't. Come, I swore I would not go on like this. No mortal woman shall enslave me, but the divine woman may free me. I love you forever and ever and ever. Oh, Stella, my beloved, my darling, my adored friend of my very soul.
Come for New Year's Eve then, dearest love. And we'll sing songs and tell stories and stay up all night. You'll restore me, body and soul, with your wicked tongue. Well, do bring Charlotte as well, of course. Let me send her a visiting card.
Well, Charlotte's a perfect dragon for cards, and you depend on it. She suspects something and suffers for it. I spent that New Year's Eve 1913 and the better part of the morning of New Year's Day with Stella. I kept trying to go home to Charlotte.
In the new year, may you play with the moon and kiss the stars and the earth lie in your lap.
Charlotte didn't speak to me for days.
Poor her. Poor you. February 1913. Haven't heard from you in nearly a month. I'm feeling better, thanks very much. I was going to invite you and Charlotte to a supper being given by Lady Tree. George West will be there and all the rest. But I suppose that sort of bohemian merrymaking is beneath her.
Ah, George. So you're jilting me. I like George. We both have the same taste. But I say, he is young and I am old, so let him wait until I am tired of you. That cannot, in the course of nature, be very long. I care for nothing, really, but my mission, my work. I adore you with one eye and see you with the other as a calculated utility.
March, April.
I've been recklessly trying to please you, to delight you, to persuade you to carry me up to heaven for a moment. I'm trying to do it now, but when I've done it, I will run away and give it all to the mob.
May, June.
Oh, thank God you haven't fallen in love with me. But don't begrudge me the joy I find in being in love with you and writing all sorts of wild, heartfelt, exquisite lies. Lies, lies, lies to you, my adored.
Oh!
So it lasted only a year.
Do you know the humiliation I feel after each of our meetings when you scurry home to Charlotte?
Oh, hush. When you've had a good wallow and washed me off and pursed and pouted, you made yourself exactly like a pork chop.
You're mad. I think you are pretending to be what it amuses you to think I am. Are we going ahead with Eliza or not? If we are, then I really must be left alone now to learn it and prepare myself to turn back time 20 years.
30.
You didn't really believe I thought you came to see me because you were interested in me. No, I knew it was Eliza, and I was delighted that you should be so businesslike in such a bewilderingly obtuse but charming way. Did you really cry after we broke up, Joey?
Yes, I did. I found myself crying for a week or two after you slammed the door in my face.
Well,
Cried like a baby. Unbelievable.
Offend me quickly now to pull me together. By the sea I must be, alone. Well, not quite all alone. You see, unknown to you, Joey, I had arranged to meet at a hotel by the sea just to run my lines with me.
Yes, I know now. That young, attractive, if a bit short on cash and brains officer.
Sweet, attentive, affectionate, needy, marriageable George Cornwallis West.
But I did not know then. So playing the conquering hero, I packed a bag, hopped on a train, found myself running along the sand to her hotel, singing at the top of my lungs.
Joey, what are you doing here? What? I told you I must be alone. Please, will you go back to London or wherever you like? But don't stay here. Joey, please. But he wouldn't go.
And she wouldn't let me come to her room. I confess it now. I thought we might take our happiness as it was meant to be. Stop time in the world and all this talk, and finally actually consume each other. But you were gone. Dear Joey, goodbye. I'm still tired. You were more fit for the journey than I. Stella. Very well, go. The loss of a woman is not the end of the world. The sun still shines. It is pleasant to swim. It is good to work. My soul can stand alone. But I'm deeply, deeply wounded. Go then. You have no nerve, you have no brain. The Shavian oxygen burns your little lungs, then seek some stuffiness that suits. You'll not marry George. You're wounded by vanity, an inconceivable audacity.
I will marry George, you blind man, you weaver of words, you poor thing, unable to understand the heart of a woman. My friend all the same. You lost me because you never found me. I, who have nothing but a little lamp in my soul to keep its flame burning, is all I ask. And you would blow it out with your bellows of self and your egotistical snortings, you elegant charmer, you lady killer.
At the great judgment they will say to you, all of your other sins are forgiven. But why did you do this? In my 57 years, I suffered 20 and worked 37. I almost condescended to romance. I risked the breaking of deep roots and sanctified ties. Fool, dotard, crybaby. Oh, the wound will not heal.
Oh, now you're breaking my heart. I did love you, but I had no Christian name for you. I wanted to sit in a hayfield with you, the sun shining. I wanted to walk around the world with you whilst you told me all the mistakes people are making. I wanted to breathe life into every one of your brave heroines. Ellie Dunn, Candida, Hesione Hushabye.
In that order, for 40 years, starting and going forward.
You know, somebody had to play the gentleman's part.
31st December 1913, New Year's Eve. Do you remember last New Year's Eve? I remember it. There was eternity and beauty, infinite boundless loveliness and content. I think of it with a frightful yearning, with a tragic despair, for you have wakened the latent tragedy in me, broken through the overbearing pompous gaiety that carried all the tragedies of the world like feathers and stuck them in my hat and laughed. And if your part in that was an illusion, then I am as lonely as God. Therefore you must still be the mother of angels to me. Put on your divinity and sit in the heavens with me. For this, for all our picked up arts to stave off the world and assumed cleverness, is all we're really fit for. Remember this. Always, even when we're groveling and racketing and drudging, for in this remembrance I am deeply faithful to you. Faithful beyond all love. Be faithful to me, and I will forgive you. Forgive you even if you betray me and everything else. Forgive you, honor you, bless you, and adore you. And let us again hear the bells ring, you on your throne and me watching, and praying, not on my knees, but at my fullest stature. For you I wear my head nearest the skies.
33 Kensington Square, 5 January 1940. Oh, Joey, if I could write letters like you, I would write letters to God. Now, may we please start rehearsing your play? I have studied, I have rested, and I have thought a great deal. I'm ready for 4 months' hard work.
Pygmalion was announced at last for April 1914.
To work! To say that we argued during rehearsal would be a gross understatement. Sir Herbert Beerbohm Tree was to play Higgins. I can tell it now. I was 25 years too old for the part.
35.
And the way I played Eliza wasn't common enough for him, or it may be that he wanted to take me up in his arms and kiss me, and as you couldn't, you bullied me unmercifully. I was having trouble with the accent. I have one letter of yours written just before opening night that would have made a weaker woman commit suicide. I confessed to him I was a little afraid, but I never let on how terrified I was.
That's all right. I don't believe in courage. God save us from having to fall back on that desperate resource.
Courage is fear that has said its prayer.
You stole that line from Dorothy, didn't you?
Well, she doesn't mind. She's dead. Good actress. Hey, do you know the story of the author who, at rehearsal, when the actor fell, said, No, that's not the fall I want at all. I want you to fall flat, inert. And the actor said, well, would you mind showing me? So the brave author got up, threw himself down, hurting himself very much. And the actor said, that's splendid. Would you mind doing it again?
Dress rehearsal. I'll be Freddie. I push you off the curb in the rain. You drop the flowers. Now I'm Higgins. Heavens, what a sound! Actually, I think, Stella, it might be better. E, ow, ow, E.
Ow! 2 bunches of violets right in the mouth. No. 2 bunches of violets right in the mouth.
You'll get it. You see this creature with her curbstone English? Well, sir, in 6 months I could pass her off as the Queen of Sheba.
What's that you say?
Yes, you squashed cabbage. You incarnate insult to the English language. A woman who makes such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to live. Remember, you're a human being with a soul and a divine right to articulate speech. That your native tongue is the language of Shakespeare and Milton and the Bible.
God!
You're 40 years too old for life. Still, you won't be so noticeable.
Why don't you at least wait until I'm out of earshot?
What's this business you slipped in? Turning your back in the at-home scene?
Well,
let's work on that. Freddie is here. Mrs. Higgins fills the prolonged silence with, will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of these islands moves slowly in an easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny!
What is wrong with that, young man? I bet I got it right.
I do hope it won't turn cold. There's so much influenza about.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said.
Really?
But it's my belief as how they done her in.
Bella, there's no as how there.
There should be. It's better that way.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is. It'll get a laugh. You need all the laughs you can get in this bloody play.
Listen to the author. For once in your life, you exasperating woman.
Who's exasperating around here? Do you know Tree takes 5 minutes between each bite of apple in that scene? It's all about him masticating. I have facial paralysis trying to keep myself from corpsing. That's why I turned my back. And besides, it's a very nice bag, don't you think?
No wonder your face looks like a first paper bag in that scene. Well, let's work the slipper bit after the ball in Act 5. I mean, you sit. I enter as Higgins. What the devil have I done with my slippers?
There are your slippers, and may you never have a day's luck with them.
And then you have a cry.
No, I don't. Go on.
What on earth? What's the matter?
I've won your bet for you, haven't I?
My what?
Your bet that you could turn me into a lady in half a year.
You won my bet. You presumptuous insect. I won it. And what did you throw those slippers at me for?
Because I wanted to smash your face. I'd like to kill you, you selfish brute.
Well, the creature is nervous after all.
Oh, what's to become of me? What's to become of me?
Oh, I know it's to become of you. What does it matter what is to become of you?
You don't care. You wouldn't care if I was dead. I'm nothing to you. Nothing so much as them slippers.
Those slippers. And do fetch them here, will you, dear Chuck?
Fetch them your own bloody old self, governor.
And on your way home, do bring back a pair of reindeer gloves. Number 8s.
Just a stare out to the audience now with a raised eyebrow before I exit. I'll work on that.
Much better than the cry, I think.
Definitely.
Just think of Higgins as me, and you'll be a smash hit.
And we were. I wrote him a note on opening night. Oh, Joey, what a fool you are. It's nice to think of your genius and your friendship. I'll obey orders faithfully. I am so grateful. Now, go and sit next to my husband in the 5th row.
You're what?
I told you I would marry George.
Oh, Pygmalion is immortal and endlessly adaptable. There must be something radically wrong with the play if it pleases everyone, but at that moment I couldn't find what it was. And I most certainly did not sit next to George.
In 1914, events triggered by a shooting in Bosnia were precipitating ominously. Pygmalion closed, along with everything else in London, and the newspaper headlines announced, Mrs. Campbell sends her men to war. In 1915, my son Bale came home to Kensington Square when he received the Military Cross. I heard him coughing in his sleep. He said he had been gassed a little, and then he was sent back to the front. I had to make some money, so I decided to take Pygmalion to America. And brave, prescient, blasphemous Mr. Shaw published his common sense about the war as a supplement to the New Statesman.
This silly business of feeding men into the machine to be killed, absolutely without any other result, goes on and on. Why don't the women rise up and say, we have the trouble of making these men, and if you don't stop killing them, we shall refuse to make any more.
Here.
I haven't had a letter from you in 50 years.
Here. The Washington, St. Louis, August 1915. Joey, my dear Joey, 6, more or less, nice letters from you to me, and not one from me to you, and you enabling me to earn my daily bread. The excuse is just fatigue. And 8 performances a week, and sometimes 9. The public wants my guts. People express great disappointment. We never speak the title of the play, and they want to know how it's pronounced. Is it Pygmalion or Pygmalion?
Oh my God.
I've been very anxious about Bale. He got ill in the trenches. Only 3 men left in his entire platoon. Oh, the enormity and eternal bloody error of this war. I miss you very much. I wish you were here. I wonder whether I shall ever see see you again. My love to you, Stella.
Ayot, St. Lawrence, May 1916. I've returned from Ireland with the survivors of the Lusitania. I can't write. Nothing comes out but screeds for the papers, mostly about the blasted war. Oh, when you're back, come with me and cheer up my sister Lucy. Her tuberculosis is no longer active, but she won't eat. She says the noise of the Zeppelin raids is killing her. This is a rotten world. You must be feeling very old and feeble. You should see me. I look 70. And the theater is passing away from me as a sort of wild oats. I go back to politics and religion and philosophy. They give me frightful headaches, but satisfy the soul.
Kensington Square, June 1917. Dear Joey, you'll see by the enclosed I'm not too fat and ugly to be spoken to. And Joey, dear, you have 2 of my boys' letters. Will you let me have them, please? And do you think your How He Lied to Her Husband would do for the Colosseum? Would you let me play it there? I've never read it. Shame upon me.
March 7, 1917. You've sent me half a letter. Send me the rest and I'll answer it. What I have appears to be the last 2 sheets. Let me have the first 6. There are 3 depths of illiteracy, each one deeper than the one before. 1, the illiteracy of those illiterate enough not to know they're illiterate. 2, the illiteracy of Eliza, who couldn't even read the end of her own story. 3, the illiteracy of those who have never read my works. There's only one person alive who is such a monster of illiteracy as to combine all 3 in her single brain. And I, the greatest living master of letters, made a perfect spectacle of himself with her before all Europe.
Savoy Court, January 1918. My beloved Bayo is killed. You have seen it in the papers. I feel he is asleep and will wake and come to me if I am quite strong and calm. I took your advice and got £275 in advance to tour Eliza in the provincial towns and paid off her secured actors, but not scenery. The chaplain writes that Bayo and the commanding officer were standing at the top of the stairs of their dugout when a shell burst and killed them both instantaneously. I would like you to read the letter. It is full of tragic gentleness and praise of my brave son.
It is no use. I cannot be sympathetic. These things just make me furious. I want to swear. I do swear. Killed because people are blasted fools. Chaplain too, to say nice things about it? It's not his business to say nice things about it, but to shout the blood of thy son's voice cries unto God from the ground. To hell with your chaplain and his tragic gentleness. Oh, damn, 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 damn. And oh, dear, 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 dearest.
Yesterday, I went to visit Alan Pollock in hospital. He fears he will never be able to return to the stage. He has been so frightfully injured. His face is shot away. And now surgeons are trying to graft a new one on. I wanted him to remove the bandages so I could see. I demanded it. He refused. I said, I've lost a son in this war and I have a right to look. Alan shook his head. He said, no, the sight would be too horrible. Nonsense, man, I said. I have just seen Lady Tree. Ah!
Ooh. Ooh.
Armistice, 1918. All the artistic, literary, and scientific institutions were supposedly hard at work healing the wounds of Europe. Stella and I were, however, embarking on spending years of childish bickering over all the letters we'd written to each other.
Chelsea, March 1920. Joey, I'm writing a book. Yeah. I've had a contract from a publisher, and I'm wondering, one, if you've saved any of my letters to you. I've saved yours. And two, whether you would give your consent to publish them.
What have you written so far? Your life, or mine, or both?
Don't worry, there's nothing confidential in it anyway. There's no such thing as falling in love.
You know, I think your best strategy going forward is to say, my past history is to be found in stale press notices, which I know better than to inflict on my friends. Then justify yourself for being something so mad as an actress at all. Tell how you drew the line between your real life and your stage personalities. Throw in a chapter on stage lovers from Tree, whose evening suit you stroked with passionate embraces of your heavily made-up arms till the poor man looked like a zebra. And George de Maurier, whose outpourings of adoration on the stage you punctuated with such asides as, "Oh, good God, to have to play a scene like this to a face like that."
Are you quite through?
But it's a good start. All right, Stella, let's have a gentleman's agreement that I won't refuse copyright to anything of mine in your manuscript.
Nobody.
Bring it over, I'll reproof the whole thing.
Great. Nobody will think anything but what lovely letters and what a dear man you are. And Charlotte will see that permitting the letters to be published is a panache in her bonnet.
Well, the public exposure is utterly impossible. This is no gentleman's agreement, for a gentleman doesn't kiss and tell, so that settles that. But there's one passage on which George could get a divorce.
Well, I thought you knew. George left me 2 years ago. Joey, please. You first said I'd leave the publication date to Mrs. Campbell's judgment.
This situation is new to you. You've been before the public for 60 years or so, but in that time you have not uttered one word to it that has not been put in your mouth by somebody else. You haven't learned the rules or acquired the sense of responsibility of authorship.
My book is obviously the work of an inexperienced, sentimental, elderly lady with gentlemanly feelings, and it is a little interesting and a little unusual. Your letters are, of course, the illumination. I wonder how you would have liked to send Shakespeare your first manuscript for him to damn, and his wife and typist perhaps to criticize, when he could have just talked it over with you.
That's not practical, Stella. You know I'd have to hand the whole thing over to Charlotte. Have you no other love letters? You can't appear as a famous beaut. He only had one catch, an old idiot of 56.
Say as many unkind things as you like. Hit me with 1,000 hammers. Nobody can hurt me anymore. If I am difficult or insistent, it is a little your fault. You don't tell me exactly what is the matter.
Stella, this tomfoolery is ridiculous. If you persist in it, you must give up the idea of making any use of the letters once and for all. I will edit them. They're love letters from a married man to a woman who is not his wife and who is engaged at the time to another man whom she subsequently marries. If the man publishes them, he is a blackguard. If the woman publishes them, she's a rotter and a courtesan and may as well take to selling herself in the street.
It's a dreadful thing to have a vaulting mind that o'erleaps itself and goes potty. You've spoiled my book. You've spoiled the story. You've hidden from the world the one thing that would have done it good. Lustless lions at play. May you freeze in that sea of ice in Dante's Inferno. Wait until you read all my other precious friends' letters. You will be sincerely sorry you were second best. It is really sad. You creep on the ground instead of flying in the air, massacring these letters. And what a pity it was you made Charlotte dislike me. They are not love letters at all. Well, I'm going to publish them. As they are now, they are twaddle. They are the only unsincere thing in the book.
Insincere? Yes, well, you got out of debt, didn't you?
For the moment. Oh, I neglected to pay my secretary. She was so patient with me, and she baked delicious coconut cakes. I was on the road in the 1920s, and for the rest of my life, reduced to touring at £3 per week. I, an actress who used to command 250. My time had passed. You knew, of course, when the reviews of my book came out, the critics dismissed the love letters. Oh, they are full of dancing gaiety and helpful regard and gratitude for having inspired such an excitement that to your immense delight you fancied yourself in love. But they are not the letters of a man who wants to be loved.
Critics, what do they know? Besides, they read the expurgated version. I forgive you the letters, Stella. There is a star somewhere on which you were right about them. And on that star we too should have been born.
Chelsea, March 1921. Dear Joey, is there no chance you could put me into Heartbreak House?
No.
You would if you could see my header.
No.
People say I walk through it, but it cannot be. Ibsen makes an actor and an audience think, and think straight, just like you do, darling. I would be wonderful.
No.
Why not?
Stella, let us not quarrel again until we're both dead.
February 1929. Dear Joey, I was under the impression that the great battle of life was fought in our youth. Not a bit of it. It's when we're old and our work not wanted that it rages and goes on and on and on. My landlord won't allow pupils here, and to take a place to teach in, well, it's too much of a venture. I wonder whether you will come and read your new play to me, as you half promised you would.
My dear Stella, I can't read plays to a starving woman. What are we to do about you? What about a benefit?
No.
Ellen Terry had a benefit that enabled her to retire and die in comfort.
I don't want a benefit. I sent Ellen Terry £25, which she acknowledged with a letter beginning, Dear Sir. Please, come and read your play to me. I'm free Thursday, Friday until 4:30, or Saturday.
The honest truth is I'm too shy to read you the only scene in that play that would interest you. Its scandalous climax is a reminiscence of Kensington Square.
I went to the Selfridge Ball and met Miss Edith Evans, who gazed eagerly at me, saying she was playing me in the apple cart. Am I represented or not?
One or two passages will not be new to you.
Bring the script at once and we'll read it together.
Here.
Wait. All right.
Orinthia in her boudoir, as you were once in your bedroom in Kensington Square. She is, as you can read for yourself, romantically beautiful
Well,
and
that's
beautifully dressed.
good. But why do you put at the top of the scene an interlude? That makes it seem unimportant, like a palate cleanser.
Will you just read? You wanted to read it. The King Magnus comes in, stands by the door, and you say,
Who is that?
His Majesty the King.
Tell the king I don't want to see him.
Orinthia, my beloved.
The name you pretended to invent specially for me, the only woman in the world for you, but you are the king of liars and humbugs. This is your best play, Joey.
Just read the lines. Read the lines.
All right. She turns away.
The lines. You needn't read the stage directions.
That's your line.
She turns away. Beloved, I'm sorry.
I believe you would sign my death warrant without turning a hair.
That is true in a way. It is wonderful how subtle your mind is as far as it goes.
It does not go as far as yours, I suppose.
Well, I don't know. Our minds go together halfway, whether it is that your mind stops there or that the road forks and you take the high road and I take the low road, and after a point, we lose each other.
That's a long way round to make a supposed joke, his mental superiority over hers.
Quiet. Just skip to what you need.
What you need to make you a real king is a real queen.
But I have one.
Oh, you're blind. You are worse than blind. You have low taste. That's true. Heaven is offering you a rose and you cling to a cabbage. Do you think Charlotte will appreciate that?
It's a very apt metaphor. What wise man, when given the choice between doing without roses and doing without cabbages, would not secure the cabbages? Besides, you should know better than anyone else that when a man gets tired of his wife and leaves her, it's never because the woman has lost her good looks, for the new one is often older and uglier than the old.
Why should I know better than anyone else?
Why? Because you've been married twice and both of your husbands have run away from you to poorer and stupider women.
What? That's rude. Shall I tell you why these men could not live with me? It was because I was higher than they were and greater. They could not stand the strain of trying to live up to me.
Oh, it must be magnificent to have the consciousness of a goddess without having to do a thing to justify it.
Give me a goddess's work to do and I'll do it. If I never did anything but sit in this room and powder my face and tell you what a clever fool you are, I should still be heavens high above millions of common women who do their domestic duty and sacrifice themselves and run trade departments. What? You're widely contradictory here, Joey. How can they be both, poor women? You'd have them running from pillar to post. And coming out of the mouth of this character? No, you rob her of talent, wit, and sensitivity in a single blow. And why that lie? Both husbands ran away. You know Pat died.
I'm not writing of particular husbands. These are types, characters. I can't help but be utterly unscrupulous. Skip the next bit and we'll start with Magnus. When are you going to?
When are you going to face your destiny and my own? For they are inextricably linked.
But my wife, the queen, what's to become of my dear Jemima?
Oh, drown her, shoot her, tell your chauffeur to drive her into the Serpentine and leave her there. The woman makes you ridiculous.
I don't think I would like that, and the public would find it ill-natured.
Oh, you know what I mean, divorce her, make her divorce you. It is very easily. Everybody does it when they need a change.
But I can't imagine what I'd do without my Jemima.
Nobody else can imagine what you do with her. Why do that? Oh, please, tear it up. I will not be able to stand by in silence and bear public performances of that scene.
Well, especially with you not being the actress actually playing it. Let's go on, please. Take it from, but you need not do.
But you need not do without her. You can see as much of her as you like when we are married. I shall not be jealous and make scenes.
That is magnanimous of you. But Jemima will not think it right to keep up her present intimacy with me if I am married to you.
Would she be in any worse position than I am in now?
No.
You mean that you do not mind placing me in a position that you do not think good enough for her?
Stella! Orinthia, I did not place you in your present position. You placed yourself in it. I could not resist you.
Suppose your wife dies. Will you die too?
Not immediately. I shall have to carry on as best I can, though the prospect terrifies me.
Might not carrying on without her include marrying me?
I had rather marry the devil. Being a wife is not your job.
You think so because you don't know me, because I have never let you really possess me. I should make you more happy than any man has ever been on earth.
Oh, I defy you to make me more happy than our strangely innocent relations have already made me.
Rising restlessly.
Don't read the stage directions.
I know. I Where is it?
You turned 15.
I know. You talk like a child or a saint. Turning on him. I can give you a new life. I can give you children. Have you ever seen a lovelier boy than my Basil?
Your children are fairy children, and I have several very real ones already. A divorce would not sweep them out of the way of the fairies.
It's enough. You always give the man the last word.
It's not finished yet. They came very merrily, rolling around on the floor.
I don't care to hear it. I ran away from you because I wanted to remain the queen of the kingdom of my heart. But I suppose you mustn't humble the king in your play like that. Sometimes, Joey, you are more than a horse's arse. You are an amphisbaena.
And what is that, my dear?
It's a mythical creature with a head at each end, walking in opposite directions.
Winter, 1931, Cop Dundee. I'm vacationing with Charlotte, and I brought along your autobiography for some light reading. Stella, there's not one item in these reminiscences of yours that has the remotest derivation from the truth, much less foundation in it. It's a pity, too, for the true story has some comedy in it, and some interest as a record of your queer psychology. What a fanciful string of lies. P.S. You should have sold all the letters when the boom in my letters was at its height.
Spring 1931. Cold, dreary London. What do you mean, string of lies? Only villains and weak people tell lies. An American private collector has offered me £3,000 for all your letters.
Spring 1932. My dear Stella, well, the bottom has fallen out of the Shaw market. Indeed, out of all the markets.
Dearest Joey, you know I behaved like a gentleman for 19 years over these letters. I could have sold them time and again for $350 to $500 each. I did not, though pressed hard for money. Now times are very much harder, almost unbearable. Have you forgotten how I made a human being out of your Eliza? And now I hear it's going to be a motion picture and make you a billionaire.
Spring 1932. Leave Pygmalion out of it. They say it will make millions, but I have not seen the color of them. Stella, all this about the letters is nonsense. I know how hard the lecturing road is in America. I know how exhausting. In fact, I know everything better than you do. And I haven't a scrap of unkind feeling toward you. But as to the letters, no, the fate's not I decree it.
Silence.
For 3 years.
Beverly Hills, 1935. Joey, I've attached a photograph taken 6 months ago. You will see I still hold up. Should you want me for your millionaires? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Hollywood and the camera have taught me humility. Deep humility. Nobody need be afraid of me anymore. 13 weeks work in 16 months. Think of that misery. It has almost broken me up. This man, George Cucoy, threw a party for me out here. Apparently everybody who was anybody came, but how am I supposed to know one matinee idol from another? I told one young wraith, I think now it was Joan Crawford, that she was so beautiful, she should be in the movies. She asked me what my name was. I drew myself up, height and breadth, and pronounced, I am Mrs. Patrick Campbell. Oh, she said, Campbell soup family?
Yes. Did you know, my dear, that at the end, Alexander Woolcott said, You were like a sinking ship firing on the rescuers.
That's unfair. First class, but unfair.
I at St. Lawrence, August 1937. My dear Stella, my antiquity, now extreme at 81, has obliged me to make a clearance among my papers and take measures generally toward my probable imminent demise. I find I have done a very wicked thing. I have kept all your letters. There's only one thing to be done. Send them back to you so that you may have the complete correspondence in your hands. P.S. Any question of publication cannot take place till after Charlotte's ashes and mine are scattered in the gardens. After that, the whole thing will be a valuable literary property that may be helpful to Stella Jr., if not to yourself. And so blessed be your days, dear Stella.
New York, 1937. Oh, thank you, my dear old love. I always felt like a child with you. That was your magic, and that is my hunger now. But I don't understand why your ashes and Charlotte's ashes have to be scattered over the ground before your letters to me may be published. In 50 years' time, life will be lived in the air. Nobody will read books. But your letters to me will be published in the airman's luggage because of the thrush in your throat. I have just returned from playing in 2 summer theaters, Cohasset and Connecticut. An ovation, calls, and a cry for a speech each night were comforting, as far as these things go. I could still make a fortune for you if you hadn't preferred actresses who were easy to work with. God bless us all. And you most especially, dearest Joey, for all the wit and wisdom and truth and justice and fair dealing, the genius of your work which you have showered upon us all so bountifully. It is your affection for me that will raise me a little out of the rut and place me somewhere near your side. I am proud and happy that it is so. P.S. I would like to thank Charlotte. Will you, for me? Gratefully, Stella.
Dulwich, 9 February 1938. Happy birthday. Your 73rd, if I'm not mistaken. For the moment, I am not dead, though Charlotte says I am a naughty patient. The doctors are treating me for pernicious anemia, though not, of course, thank God, by making me swallow pounds of raw liver. They concede that death is preferable to that. Keeping me alive is pure officiousness anyway, as I'm 82, and look it! Oh, Pascal, by the way, is making a film of Major Barbara, and he wants you for the part of the mother. Are you seriously still in the field? My latest play, Geneva, is horrible. It's all current politics. The performances threaten to turn into riots. But I have to write plays like Geneva. It's not that I want to. It relieves the terrible tension we all feel about foreign affairs by laughing at everyone concerned. Joey, your clown, was the cleverest thing you ever invented, by far. By far, by far.
Paris, 1939. Did I once call you a clown? I expect it was when you said I am gone. Another birthday, come and gone, pushing towards 80 myself, and yes, I am still seriously in the field, as they say, but not, as cannon fodder. Belated thanks for your cablegram. And your gardenias, too. Weren't you astonished when King George sent Hitler congratulations on his 50th birthday? The war news is all very bewildering. The Brighton Hotel raises price for the season, so I came here to 1 room en pension, saving time and money. but I do hope to get away to a little hotel in the south of France, set in beauty at the same price. I keep all the letters in a hat box, Joey. And though I have become an itinerant gypsy and have even reduced myself to traveling with one trunk, a big tin box, and various parcels, that hat box is never far from my side. In fact, at the moment it is. Well, Joey, there you are at last, under my bed. I've gotten used to poverty and discomfort, and even to the very real unhappiness of having no maid to take a few of the little daily cares for me, and give me an arm when I cross the road, carrying my precious pup Moonbeam through the terrifying, tearing traffic. My love to you, and my prayers that you continue well, for all our sakes. Stella.
What
What
was...
did you...
Go ahead, my dear.
How was it for you at the end?
Oh, embarrassing. Agony. A ridiculous succession of ailments and failings. And too many visitors. I finally got out of hospital and into my own bed and simply said, I'm going to die. And I did.
And Charlotte?
Well, 7 years before me. Rheumatism, arthritis, lumbago. Who knows what names the doctors gave for what killed her finally. It was heartbreaking watching her shrink and curl up into a brittle ball of pain. Her very last days were terrifying. She had hallucinations. Saw little dogs and kittens in my lap, and crowds of strangers in the room. And then an extraordinary change came over her on her deathbed. The cloud lifted, and she calmed. And she smiled. And she spoke to me joyously, insistently, unintelligibly, but she understood everything I told her. That she was beautiful, and that I loved her, and that the illness was leaving her. And it was, miraculously. The wrinkles and lines and creases of anxiety disappeared, and she looked 40 years younger. More really, she looked like a child, like an angel. I was amazed. I'd never seen anything so beautiful. And then she died. And you?
In the spring, caught a cold, pneumonia, died in a little hotel in south of France. I'd written to Dee Dee how colourful the characters were there. Very charming French poetess, a well-educated Dutch lady with her Austrian husband, and a singer who'd lost her voice, and two grandmothers with their grandchildren whose fathers and mothers were away. The Second War was coming, you know. I wish that my daughter, Stella, had been able to get close to me, and that she had shared her little son, Pat, with me. My very loyal companion, Agnes Claudius, got the hat box out of France and over to England 5 days before the Germans invaded Paris. I called to you in the night many times in a fever before I died.
I know.
Many thanks for keeping my grave up in perpetuity, but I would much rather have been put out to sea on a pyre and had my daughter set a match to it.
Oh, Stella. Was I really your best friend? Mrs. Patrick Campbell, 1865 to 1940.
Mr. G. Bernard Shaw, 1856 to 1950.
Love and work.
And immortality. Well, that's the end of our run. Thank you, Jon and Maria.